Take to the floor of the United States Senate, where Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, one of the most powerful Democrats in Washington, delivered what can only be described as a blistering indictment of Donald Trump's economic agenda. Just days after the Supreme Court struck down the president's sweeping tariff orders, Trump didn't pause, didn't reconsider, he doubled down. And Schumer, a veteran legislator from New York who has spent decades fighting for working families, was not about to let that slide. What followed was a pointed, unapologetic message, not just to the White House, but to the American people still struggling to pay their grocery bills.
Democrat leader.
We have quorum?
We are not.
Mr. President, Americans breathed a brief sigh of relief last week when the Supreme Court knocked out Trump's harmful tariff proposals. Americans are suffering because Donald Trump is raising tariffs. People pay more for so many daily goods, so many groceries, for cars, for homes, for everything. And the American people hate the tariffs because they know it's raising their costs. And so, for a brief moment, there was a sigh of relief that you heard from one end of America to the other, because the Supreme Court correctly said the president can't raise tariffs on emergency basis, only the Congress can. But Donald Trump, who is in a bubble, has no understanding of what the American people need, feel, or want, reimposed the tariffs right away, and then he one-upped it, doubled down on it, and raised them again. And now Americans are back in the same position they were before the court decision. Higher prices, more inflation, harder to afford things, harder to pay the bills. And a good chunk of that increase, the difficulty in paying the bills, is because of Trump's tariffs. Democrats will not stand for it. And in fact, the new tariff regime that Trump put in must expire in a few months and needs Congress's approval. I am here to tell Donald Trump and the American people we will not extend those tariffs, and they will expire in a few months. And hopefully then Republicans will join us in not allowing Trump to raise tariffs, which so raise costs for the American people. Tariffs are highly unpopular among Democrats, independents, and Republicans. Donald Trump, in his bubble, does not understand the burdens he is imposing on American families, but we Democrats do. And we will do everything we can to stop these odious tariffs that are causing so much harm, so much pain on American families. I yield the floor.
Senator Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Senate Democrats, standing on the floor of the United States Senate and doing what, frankly, more elected officials should have done months ago, telling the truth about what these tariffs are doing to the American people. The Supreme Court of the United States, including justices appointed by Donald Trump himself, ruled that the president does not have the unilateral authority to impose sweeping tariffs under the guise of a national emergency. That is not a partisan opinion. That is constitutional law. The power of the purse, the power to regulate commerce, these belong to Congress. The founders wrote it that way for a reason. They had seen what happens when one man decides he knows best, and they built a system to prevent exactly that. And yet, within days, not weeks, not months, days, Donald Trump simply reimposed the tariffs and raised them even higher. The highest court in the land said no, and this president said, "I don't care." That is defiance of the rule of law, dressed up in the language of economic nationalism. This new tariff regime has an expiration date. It requires congressional approval to continue, and that is where the real battle begins. Because Democrats now have leverage, not just political leverage, but constitutional leverage. And Schumer has made it unambiguously clear. They will not extend these tariffs. They will let them die. These tariffs are not abstract policy. They are not numbers on a spreadsheet in the Oval Office. They are the reason a mother in Ohio is paying 30% more for her child's shoes. They are the reason a small business owner in Michigan can't afford to restock his shelves. They are the reason a young couple in Arizona had to delay buying their first home again. These are real consequences, falling on real people in every zip code in this country, who have said unanimously that broad tariffs of this magnitude will hurt American consumers far more than they will ever hurt foreign competitors. And the data backs that up, exposed completely. What's particularly striking is the political landscape here. Schumer pointed out that tariffs are unpopular not just among Democrats, not just among independents, but among Republicans as well. That is a remarkable political failure. When you have managed to unite the entire American electorate against your signature economic policy, you are not winning. You are governing in isolation. So where does this leave us? It leaves us at a crossroads. Democrats have drawn a line. The Constitution is on their side, the courts are on their side, public opinion is on their side. The question now is whether enough Republicans in Congress will have the courage, and let's call it what it is. It takes courage in today's Republican Party to stand with the American consumer over the American president. History will remember this moment, not just as a policy debate, but as a test of whether